From wherever you're watching in Australia, New Zealand, or around the world.
I'm PMA Managing Editor Ben Blaschke.
And I'm Head of Content Landon Blackhall.
And welcome to our very first episode of Run It Out.
Plenty happening on the felt in Australian poker already, and it's not even the end of January, but we actually have an update on what's happening with Crown Poker. So as we know, there hasn't been a lot happening with Crown Poker since the last Aussie Millions was held there in Melbourne back in 2020. Obviously, we've seen the world has changed quite a bit with COVID and also with the industry changes and, of course, the Royal Commission, which has impacted operations at Crown Resorts. Now, we hadn't actually seen any updates or progress on what was happening with Crown Poker. That is until last week. There was a response from the Crown social media team, which effectively said Crown will no longer be running poker tournaments. Ben, I have to ask, in terms of what has happened, or rather what hasn't been happening with Crown Poker these last couple of years, we haven't seen much communication from them at all in regards to poker in general, with the exception on updates for their cash games. Is this the end of the Aussie Millions? And is this the end of the Crown Poker product as we know it?
Landon, I think yes. I think the short answer is yes. I think for the past few years, as you say, there has not been much correspondence from Crown Poker. We've reached out to them a few times without any response. And I think that our general, we've sort of assumed that, okay, Crown's been pretty much caught up in these royal commissions and what's going on regulatorily for them around the country. And I think we sort of assumed that poker was on the back burner. The nature of this response, I think, more than confirms that. I think it suggests that poker is well and truly not on the radar for Crown at the moment. For certain reasons, you can probably understand why that is, but unfortunately for the poker community, it looks like no poker tournaments at Crown anytime soon, possibly for years. And certainly in terms of the Aussie Millions, which is, I think, the one that we're all particularly interested in, I'm very unlikely to see the Aussie Millions again. Certainly, I'll be surprised to see it within the next 5 years. It may never return. We've sort of assumed that this might be the case because we know that Crown's had royal commissions in 3 states, particularly the Crown Melbourne Royal Commission. We know that the findings were quite damning. We know that they've been distracted and focused more on getting their license back rather than worrying about what's happening with Crown Poker. Of course, as it stands, Crown Melbourne doesn't actually have a casino license. It's being run by an independent monitor. Their focus at the moment is to try and prove that they are suitable to have that license back. We assumed that. We knew that was the case. We thought poker might be a while before it comes back. Concerning thing about this social media post is that it appears it may never come back, and certainly not for a long time.
Look, for mine, it really is disappointing to see the lack of response that has come through from Crown Poker and the Crown social media team. In my opinion, it's an insult to the players, and it's particularly to the poker industry in general. There's been so much hard work that's gone in from the Crown alumni to have made Crown Poker, and in particular the Aussie Millions, such a success over many, many years. I just don't think it deserved to go out like this, especially when the Aussie Millions is still revered as one of the great poker destinations worldwide. It's almost like a collective slap in the face to the global poker community.
Funny, Landon, I distinctly recall you and I sitting down at the Aussie Millions in 2020, just at the bar overlooking the poker room, having a chat and not imagining what was about to transpire over the next few years. I guess it was the perfect storm with the Royal Commissions and COVID. But as you say, the Aussie Millions is as part of the Australian poker fabric. It's sort of been the core of what put the Australian poker on the scene. The Aussie Millions and 𝘗𝘗𝘗 are the two big things, really, weren't they, back in that time when the Aussie Millions boomed? We've discussed this the past few days quite extensively, you and I, about the lack of engagement from the Crown Poker team. In some ways, I feel somewhat sorry for them because I'm not sure how staffed the Crown Poker team is at the moment. We know that we've lost the likes of 𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘋. We know they've lost a lot of their more experienced people over the past few years because of COVID and other factors. So, I'm wondering how much the staff that is there are really, they might be wondering what's going on too. I'm not sure how much information is filtering down from the top. As I said, I think the top is quite focused on other matters at the moment. So it has been radio silent for the past few years. And based on this first communication with the public, it seems that poker is well and truly on the back burner at Crown Melbourne.
Obviously, still plenty more to come on this story, and PMA will have more on this as it develops. But Ben, it seems to be a major theme amongst the major tier one operators. Of course, we have seen public inquiries with the New South Wales and Queensland governments into the conduct of Star Entertainment. And we have some news on the Sydney front there as well. Is that right?
Yeah, Landon. I mean, as you say, the Royal Commissions, well, the Royal Commission in Melbourne and the Bergen inquiry in New South Wales and the recent Bell inquiry into Star, probably more damning and more restrictions placed than in Queensland at this stage. And so what we've seen in Sydney in terms of Star Poker is I guess a similar situation where running poker tournaments is proving a little bit difficult when it comes to how players buy into tournaments, how players are paid, how winnings are paid out. Now, I know the Star are working through these matters with the New South Wales regulator all the time. I don't want to speak out of turn. I have been speaking to Star about this. I don't think we're going to see any major tournaments at the Star Sydney. Obviously, there's still weekly tournaments running, but I don't think we're going to see any major series for a little while, probably for the next 6 months or so. But unlike Crown Melbourne, who obviously are just focused on other things, I do know that Star are engaged with regulators trying to get poker tournaments back, just discussing how that might work. So I do expect to see tournaments come back to the Star Sydney, hopefully towards the end of this year, hopefully a little bit earlier even. Don't expect to see them in the short-term future. And as we saw late last year, the WSOP circuit was moved from Sydney up to the Gold Coast. I think the Star Gold Coast is going to be the home of casino tournament poker for the foreseeable future.
Speaking of the home of poker being Queensland, we have, of course, just seen the APL PT Queensland series at Southport Sharks wrap up, and it was an absolute belter, bringing in almost $1.2 million in series prize pool, making it the largest APL PT series in history. It's a fantastic achievement, and of course, comes off the collective success of the team at the APL, led by former Crown Executive Tournament Director Joel Williams.
Yeah, that's right, Landon. Super start to the year for APL PT. As you say, Queensland is really establishing itself at the moment as the home of Australian poker, as the home of super large tournament series. So as you say, I mean, obviously apart from the casino-based series, we've obviously got APL doing very well up there, APT doing very, very well up there, WPT League. So this is a great start to the year for the APL. Largest tournament series in APL PT history, and Landon, quite a few familiar names doing pretty well as well.
It certainly was, Ben. 𝘗𝘔𝘌, who was runner-up in the WPT Australia main event, took out the Centurion after cutting a deal with Daniel Desmond. Reese Beto took out the record-breaking Jackstar Super High Roller from 239 entries. That was good for almost 75K. Meanwhile, James Samet was the main event champion, defeating a field of 915 entries for his biggest career score to date. And Anthony Sioco, who won the Jackstar Super High Roller there in Queensland last year, took out the Monster Stack. Ben, it just goes to show that they are doing great things with their tour product, and a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
Yeah, packed schedule for them, Landon, this year, which is great. I mean, we saw we're up there for the APL Million last year, which was a massive series. Of course, they're heading down to Sydney later this month, which again, I expect that to be a pretty huge series, and I hope to pop out there and take a bit of a look, if not play a few myself and hopefully bink a score. But, great for the APL to be racking up these numbers for the start of the year. It bodes really well for the 12 months ahead.
For more information, visit playapl.com. Now moving on to the Gambier Poker January series, which just wrapped up over the course of this weekend. 5 events in total. Luke Bremner taking out the $450 buy-in high roller to open the account for the year. And that was followed by Keith Pearson, who won the Friday Frenzy. Clint Taylor also took out the big bounty. And interestingly, it was Dylan Tarko Clark who finished runner-up in both those tournaments before going on to ship the main event, which all but locked up the player of the series race there. Sharon Hoy, who has also been experiencing great success on the felt in the last year or so, she took out the Six Max event to close things out. Ben, I just want to talk about the Gambier Poker boys. They're doing a fantastic job out there with their community poker project. They've been one of the driving forces of the South Australian poker team, professionally run events at decent price points, especially for those regional players who are looking to take that step into the next level. And indeed, the entire South Australian poker team really working hard to make poker great again in SA.
Yeah, Landon, getting great reports back from Gambier Poker just on how well the series was run, how much the participants enjoyed it. And, I look at South Australia, and of course, Queensland is booming, but South Australia may just be the fastest growing poker market in Australia. I mean, and we look at the schedule coming up over the next few weeks and next few months. Of course, Stacked Poker Championship, always unmissable. And PMA will be there, by the way, providing live reporting services. So don't miss us there at the Stacked Poker Room in North Adelaide. Again, expecting a record-breaking series. Last year's was record-breaking, 181 main event entries 12 months ago. I think that will be smashed this year. And I should say the number of very big names going to be there, Lando, at Stacked, including 𝘗𝘏𝘐𝘚, Jeff Lissandro, Billy the Croc, who is there? Robert Campbell, I believe, is going to be there. No doubt defending champion Joe Sandayev, who won pretty much everything last year. And all of South Australia's best will be there. So that's unmissable. And then, of course, we go straight into the Southern Poker Tours, Havoc in the Hills, and then in March, Matchroom Adelaide Poker Championship, 20 to 27th of March. So we're starting to see these regular series in Adelaide all being very well attended, and that scene is really booming, Landon. It's pretty exciting stuff down there.
Absolutely, and it's full credit to not only the entire SA Poker team, the representatives on the board there, but also to John Stark, who has really been spearheading this campaign to really ensure that the South Australian poker market all gets their fair share. They really are working cohesively to ensure that the schedule doesn't clash too much. They're always allowing themselves, that opportunity, that room to make sure that their player base is able to attend all their major events throughout the festival state. And we are seeing very positive results. And we're also seeing reward and recognition there with the second annual SA Poker Awards coming up in early February as well.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before, Landon, the way, as you mentioned there, the way the South Australian operators are all working together to put together a schedule that works for each operator so there's no clashes, it works for the players. It's probably the most collaborative I've seen in any state in Australia. In fact, I'll say that it quite clearly is by far. And it's working super well for them. Obviously, the whole Player of the Year points-based system that they've put in is brilliant and allows for players to play throughout the year across multiple series and earn points towards that. It's just really well put together. And I know there are a number of events yet to be announced for later in the year. I know that Stacked are going to be running 3 series this year. They ran 2 last year. So 2 more to come after the upcoming Stacked Poker Championship with dates to be announced soon. I think the other operators will be doing exactly the same. It's looking really good down there, Landon.
Certainly a lot happening on the South Australian poker scene. If you'd like to find out more, head to sapoker.com.au. Now, on the subject of schedules, Ben, PMA's dance card is looking pretty full already. We'll be heading up to the APT Brisbane series at the Eaton's Hill Hotel. On the ground, providing social media updates and photos from the 18th to the 22nd of January, and plenty more also coming up. Ben, can you tell us more?
Orlando, you'll be doing plenty of jet setting, obviously from Queensland. I believe we're heading back home briefly and then heading to Adelaide for the Stacked Poker Series, Stacked Poker Championship, I should say. Yourself and the lovely Alicia. Of course, quite a bit coming up in February and March as well. I know that WPT Prime will be the first casino tournament series of the year in March. And of course, PMA will be there on the ground, bringing you live reporting coverage of the major side events there. Lando, what else have we got?
Plenty more coming from PokerMedia.com.au as well. As you would have already seen, we are starting our full range of regular monthly pieces. And coming up is our next episode of the PMA podcast for season 3, featuring 2022 GPI Australian Female Player of the Year, J-Dub's own Janet Wyville. We've also got the extended edition of the interview that we conducted with Jeff Platt at the WPT World Championships. That'll feature in our latest rendition of the PMA Heads Up interview series. And that's followed by the January edition of the PMA Results Roundup, where we'll be wrapping up all the major series that's been happening across the country over the last month. So once again, be sure to keep an eye out on PokerMedia.com.au for the latest headlines, and follow us on all our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube to keep up with all the latest. And finally, it's official. Our call to arms for Poker Media Australia has begun. Today marks the launch of our recruitment drive. We are looking for all sorts of talent across the country so that we can bring you more stories and more results from more events more often. And it's also part of our commitment to you to ensure that we are bringing you the best possible coverage on the poker media industry from indeed Australia and worldwide. Ben, tell us more.
That's right, Lando. As you say, we are expanding our live reporting team. We're getting busier. We're traveling the country. We've got more events. We expect a lot more to come this year. And we want people to join the PMA live reporting team. So if you think you have what it takes, if you're a writer, if you're a photographer, if you like to be a runner, a blogger, if you've got any of these skills, if you just want to explore what might work for you with the PokerMedia Australia team, please do get in touch with us. We'd love to have a chat to you.
Contact details are listed below there, so feel free to either email Ben or myself if you want to find out more. But rest assured, you will be working with the #1 team in the business, and we very much look forward to bringing you all this and more throughout the course of 2023 and beyond. So once again, head to pokermedia.com.au to keep up with our latest headlines. Follow us on all our socials. But for now, from all of us here at PMA, that's Ben and I'm Lando. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.